stream, just because things can change quickly. And when you look at how quickly algorithms change on Facebook and with Facebook advertising, that's where you don't want to be relying on that as your only way of getting word out. So while it's a super powerful tool, do take into account that you should be looking at multiple things, whether that's newsletters, Google Ads, things like that. To be done well, it does require time and effort and money. Facebook and the Facebook advertising platform are constantly changing and tweaking things, and so you do need to spend time checking in on your ads very regularly and tweaking to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck. So why Facebook and Instagram? To be clear, Facebook and Instagram are both owned by Facebook. So when you do advertising in the Facebook ad platform, you're setting up your ads for both Facebook and Instagram. So they're not separate advertising entities. It's a single entity that exists within Facebook. Some of the benefits to Facebook advertising are in-depth analytics, so you can really easily measure results based on different kind of performance indicators. They're very cost effective, so in many cases you can get cheaper results than on other platforms like Google. And then there's a ton, we'll go over it, but a ton of detailed targeting options. So you can target people from like interest-based targeting to remarketing and everything in between. There's a lot of really impressive options that I personally find go more in depth for targeting than Google Ads. So again, just a note, Facebook owns Instagram. When you're doing Facebook ads or Instagram ads, you're doing it within the Facebook ad platform. So we're going to look at algorithms quickly. This is not about ads. This is about unpaid content, but you really want to be getting as much as possible out of your unpaid content before you move to paid content, so that you're not just spending money when you could also be getting more from the free option. So we're going to do a quick run through of regular unpaid content quickly before we get into advertising. So basically, the Facebook algorithm, there was a big shift in 2018 where Facebook, that sounds like so long ago now, where Facebook deprioritized page content. And so what that meant was that they wanted to show people more of their friends and things like that and less business or ad stuff. And so what that meant is all of a sudden business pages, organic reach on them sunk really low, which pushed a lot of new businesses into spending money on the ads platform. But there's a limited amount of room on the ads platform. So what that meant is that all of a sudden ads surged in pricing because there were more people wanting to put out ads in the limited space that there was. So basically I remember looking at my average cost per click between 2017 and 2018 on some of the same ads, and the cost had increased by 92%. So where you're spending, $1 on a click, say before, you're now spending $1.92 on that same click. So the algorithm is constantly changing. The way we're fed Facebook content is constantly changing. Facebook isn't super clear on what makes up the algorithm. There are thousands of factors, but some of the big ones to keep in mind are the type of content you're sharing. So video versus just images or no images. Using trigger words or clickbaiting. Facebook punishes posts that use clickbaiting, and how much engagement, the type of engagement posts are getting, that affects how many people see it organically. Instagram also has its own algorithm that is different from the Facebook algorithm. Again, like on Facebook, the way we're fed content has changed significantly over time. In 2016, there was a big uproar because Instagram got rid of the chronological feed. And I think because of a lot of the negative feedback they got in 2018, they changed the algorithm significantly to bring back the importance of the chronological timeline without making it a pure chronological timeline thing. So the feed algorithm is now kind of calculated on 6 main things: interest, timeliness, relationship, frequency, following, and usage. So what are those? Interest is how much are you likely to care about a post. So these interest, timeliness, and relationship are kind of the main factors that affect the Instagram algorithm. So what genres of content have you interacted with in the past? You like a lot of food posts, travel posts, you look at clothing or furniture. in terms of interest, the popularity of the post doesn't necessarily matter. Instagram might show you a post that has less engagement, but that you're more likely to be interested in because of your past usage of the app. Timeliness, so this is where the chronological thing comes back into play. So more recent posts rank higher in your feed. Instagram feels that more recent content will be more relevant to you. And then relationships. So content from your best friends will rank higher in your feed. So best friends are people whose content you engage with regularly, people you DM or search, people you tag in your photos or mention, things like that. And then besides the primary algorithm considerations, there are a few secondary ones. So they matter slightly less than the primary considerations, but they're still used to decide what's shown to you and when. So frequency. So how often do you open the Instagram app? The algorithm will shift posts based on this behavior. Following, how many people do you follow? Obviously, if you follow 5 people versus if you follow 5,000 people, the number of posts the algorithm has to play with drastically changes. And then usage. So how long do you normally spend on Instagram and how do you use it? So do you do a quick scroll and leave and do that 20 times a day? Or do you log in twice a day and do 20 minutes of scrolling? That will affect how the algorithm positions content within your feed. So basically, how can you cut through all of this for free before you even start paying for advertising? So cutting through the Facebook algorithm, there's several things you can do. Time your posts effectively. So basically, the Facebook algorithm prioritizes posts that receive more engagement or more high quality engagement, which is why timing your posts is so important. Like you want to be timing it for when your followers or the people who like your page are online. So I would recommend using a tool like Sprout Social or Iconosquare. There are links for those in the PDF that's been shared by Libby in the chat to get data on your users. So something like Iconosquare will tell you that in your Facebook account, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. you get X percentage of engagement. Thursdays at 1 p.m. you get X percentage of engagement. So that kind of helps you know when to schedule your posts. And I would recommend using a scheduling tool so that you are posting for the most active times. There are tools outside of Facebook, but Facebook also recently introduced the Creator Studio, which allows you to schedule posts within the Facebook world itself. So it'll allow you to schedule it. It doesn't, however, give you that really in-depth data on when your followers are most engaged. That you need to go to outside sources for, like Iconosquare or Sprout Social. Post more video content. So Facebook has been pushing video via the algorithm for several years now. The algorithm prioritizes native video. So what that means, native video is basically, you'll notice if you share a video from YouTube, like you share the link in a Facebook post, you don't get kind of like that preview of the video. And the reason Facebook does that is because they are in direct competition with YouTube, so they want to discourage people sharing YouTube content. They want them instead to upload their videos into Facebook and share from within Facebook. So that's called native video. So if you are sharing video content, do make sure that you're actually uploading the video and not just sharing a YouTube link. It also, basically, because they're pushing video, it means video content is shown to more people than text or image-based content. That being said, video can be very expensive to make, especially high-quality video, so you don't need to be sharing video with every single post, just do try to work it into your content schedule. Another way of including video is through Facebook Live. So Facebook has been pushing Facebook Live for a while as well. Basically, one of the advantages is that when you start a live video on Facebook, your followers get like a ping, so they know that you started a live video, so that's a way to kind of get front and center. And then drive engagement, but don't engagement bait. So Facebook punishes posts that it deems to be engagement baiting. So these are basically posts that outright ask for like likes or comments or shares or tags. When Facebook first started, this was a pretty common type of content. But as time progressed, Facebook basically noticed that people tend to find that really spammy, like users find it a very spammy type of post. And so in order to discourage that, Facebook actually kind of like punishes those posts by not showing it to very many people. So if you are engagement baiting, you'll notice that your organic reach is very low. Social media is about being social, so try to engage your audience in a meaningful conversation that isn't engagement baiting. So instead of saying, like this post, tack a question onto the post, so you're encouraging comments without outright asking for them. Create visual content. So visual content generally gets about 87% more engagement than purely text-based content. I would recommend that every single post be accompanied by some sort of visual, whether it's a photo, a video, an infographic, a GIF, anything like that. It's kind of expected from business pages in this day and age. I've here and as well in the PDF that Olivia shared in the chat box, I've listed kind of some tools for creating visual content if you're not someone who's comfortable with Photoshop or things like that. Canva's a great way of creating it's a really easy to use platform to create graphics. Pictochart allows you to make infographics. So there's some really cool tools out there that you can use to create interesting visuals. Last but not least, don't repeat yourself. I know this from having written content for the same businesses for long periods of time. You often kind of run out of your own content to promote and then end up just repeating content by posting the same things over and over again. What I would recommend is that if you're going to repeat content, try and switch the way you're presenting it. So for example, like turn a quote from an article into a custom graphic when you're sharing the article instead of just sharing a photo. Or maybe take a blog post and turn it into a video, talk about it. Just try and repurpose content so it doesn't seem like you're sharing the same thing over and over again. Cutting through the Instagram algorithm. So the first one is step up your photo quality. We're really spoiled. We've come to expect really high quality photos on Instagram, like visually striking photos. So think about, if you have the budget, producing some professional visuals from time to time. Even if you're in a seemingly boring industry, high quality photos are kind of an expectation rather than exception to the rule nowadays. If you can't afford professional photography, maybe try finding like a free class or a webinar or taking some photography classes, even iPhone photography classes, so you kind of have a better idea of how to create high quality photos. I know there are a lot of like easy ways, especially if you're selling products, of just getting the white sheets, like the white sheet background, and learning some tricks for making your images really high quality. Publish stories regularly. So stories themselves don't have an influence on the algorithm of your posts, but that being said, they're easily the most popular type of content on Instagram right now. They've kind of like blown up, I think, simply because they took over from Snapchat in many ways. They basically provide an authentic, speedy way to engage your audience, and because they show up at the very top of the feed, it's a way to push your account to kind of the front of people's screens. So rather than choosing between stories or posts, I would just do both. Like I would regularly publish posts on Instagram, but also regularly publish stories. Another thing about stories too is they can be a lot more, I would say, casual than professional video. So where you might need a professional video for a Facebook post, stories is more like a behind the scenes, or like interviews with employees, or like fun updates from the shop, or things that are on sale. Stories is a lot more casual than than professional video production that might be expected in other places. Again, like on Facebook, Instagram, Facebook via Instagram has been pushing video content more in general. You want followers to spend as long as possible engaging with your profile. And so videos just kind of, with that movement, people stop and watch them for longer than just with a simple photo. Instagram has also been pushing, obviously, stories, but also IGTV. So for those of you who don't use IGTV, basically it's a way, so in your feed, you can share a video up to, I think, 60 seconds, but you can't share anything longer than 60 seconds. And so kind of to pull people away from YouTube, what Instagram did is they created IGTV. So it's a way of creating, it's a separate app, but it allows you to create long-form videos that you can then share in your feed. And so I'm sure you've noticed it when you're watching videos in your feed. Often, as soon as you get to the 60-second mark, there's a button that shows up that says continue watching in IGTV, and that's where it takes you to like the full-length video. So when you're producing videos, you can create them in IGTV and then share them in your Instagram feed. And so I think that was a really intelligent thing for Instagram to do, because all of a sudden there are all these like, makeup artists and producers and people who couldn't share full tutorials or full videos, or bloggers sharing full videos. They could only do it on YouTube before. Now they can do it in Instagram via IGTV and simply post it in their feed. So there's a lot of people doing really interesting things with long-form videos on Instagram, so it is something I would recommend checking out. Craft compelling captions. So Instagram is a little bit different from Facebook in that encouraging interactions directly in your game. It's not seen as engagement baiting, and it won't punish your organic reach. So like you can straight up ask people to drop a comment tagging a friend, and that won't harm the reach of your content. The more engagement on Instagram, the higher quality Instagram is going to think the post is, and so the more likely it is to share it with people who are interested in that topic. So I would recommend, like on Facebook, putting a lot of thought into the captions you are writing for your photos. Contests and giveaways. So on Facebook, businesses have to follow a lot of stringent rules when running contests. Instagram is a lot more lax, so you'll see that contests tend to be a lot more popular on Instagram. So whether it's sharing a hashtag, getting people to tag friends, or getting them to create user-generated content, that really helps us get you a surge of engagement on your profile. One note, I would consider a less is more strategy for your contest so that there's enough time to kind of build up buzz. If you're running a contest every week, that's probably a little bit excessive. If you're running a contest once a month or, once a season, or when you're about to have a sale, that's more what I would look at for creating content for a contest or giveaway. Like on Facebook, you really should be posting during peak hours when your audience is online. Like, it doesn't guarantee a flood of activity, but it's definitely better than posting when your audience is asleep. A lot of times, like with Facebook, people will say, well, I read that Thursday at 6 p.m. is the best time to post. This is why I would really recommend getting it's not super expensive. Iconosphere is what I use. It costs $5 a month per account. So you can pay $5 for your Instagram account, $5 for your Facebook account. And it tells you exactly when the best time to post is. And you'll note that it's completely different every day of the week and depending on the platform. Like, it could be Wednesdays at 11 a.m. is your biggest day on Instagram, but then Sundays at 10 p.m. is your biggest day on Facebook. So I do find that a really useful tool to know when to be scheduling my posts. For scheduling, again, the Facebook Creator Studio does allow you to schedule your posts via that platform for free. Because I have Iconosphere where I get all my data, I just schedule through there because it's all in one place. And there are different options like Later, Sprout Social, Hootsuite that I've used before that will allow you to schedule your posts as well. Last thing with Instagram is hashtags. Including hashtags as part of your content strategy basically makes your posts searchable in Instagram. So there are different types of hashtags you should be including with your content. You can include up to 30 hashtags in a post, and then you could add more in a comment below. Generally, you should be doing a minimum, I would say, of about 10 hashtags. They've shown that 10 to 15 hashtags as a minimum does increase the engagement you get on a post. So just something to keep in mind. In terms of hashtag types, there's brand-specific hashtags. So you should create a hashtag for your brand. It could be your company name or your tagline, or you could have one for each. Make sure it's unique, so you don't want, when other people search that hashtag, you only want your content to come up. It's very important to have a unique brand-specific hashtag. And make sure it's easy to spell so people aren't making spelling errors and looking up the wrong hashtag. Campaign-specific hashtags. So this is a hashtag that you use for marketing campaigns. So again, you want to make sure it's unique. You want to promote it so that your followers or customers know to use it and engage with it. So Bell Let's Talk is a perfect example of a very popular campaign-specific hashtag. And then there's product and lifestyle hashtags. So these aren't branded. They're simply hashtags that relate to your post content and make your posts more searchable. So for example, if you're a furniture company, you might, on a post about a living room, do hashtag living room decor, hashtag couch, hashtag leather accents, that kind of thing. And it's more just so that it shows up in people's discovery. That's really the purpose of product and lifestyle hashtags. One thing to note, when you're putting hashtags in your content, I would recommend visually separating them from your content so it doesn't, when people are scrolling through, it doesn't look like big block. So if you're including hashtags in your post on Instagram, I would maybe do dots to visually separate it, or some people do icons to visually separate it, or you can also put it in a comment with a program like Iconosquare, which is what I use. It actually lets you also schedule the first comment, so then I just put my hashtags in the first comment. So I'm going to take a couple questions from Libby. Just a reminder that the chat window is where you can ask questions, and where Libby, our teaching assistant, will be sharing links and answering some of those questions. She'll also save a few for me for when I get to different parts of the presentation. So, someone asked, there seems to be a school of thought to post when it's not busy. I personally would not recommend that. Posting when it's not busy means your followers aren't online. And also when you look at the fact that your content gets shown to more people, the more engagements it has. You definitely want to be getting those engagements when you're posting it, because otherwise, like, getting those engagements days later isn't really going to help it much, because timeliness is a thing. So personally, I would recommend posting when something like Iconosquare or whatever platform you're using shows you is the time your followers engage the most. I don't know why you would post when they're not engaging. So I thought contests and giveaways were considered clickbait now. They are on Facebook. So contests and giveaways on Facebook are very complex to run, and they are generally considered engagement baiting. They are still kind of very popular on Instagram, and you'll see people constantly sharing screenshots in their stories and things like that, because contests on Instagram are so popular and successful at the moment. So I've tried the recommendations on when to post. However, I found that testing is the best way to see when the best time to post is. What do you think? Yeah, so for example, that's why I've used Iconosquare. So I generally started using it 3 to 6 months after I've been posting. And what that means is that it can pull the data from the last 3 to 6 months of my posts and tell me when the best time to post is. That being said, I do still sometimes go outside of those hours to see how it does, because if I say post 2 hours after recommended and it does really well, that's now a new time at which I have an option to post if I want a lot of engagement. So it's a good way to schedule the majority of your posts in times when the data is showing that people are engaged. But yes, I would recommend testing different times as well, because it'll be able to pull that data and tell you if it was working or not. How do you use the scheduling tool? How would it know until you've posted a lot, or does it consider your content and suggest the best time? Yeah, so something like Iconosquare pulls the data from your posts. So if you've had an Instagram account for the last 3 years, it'll pull the data from the last 3 years and tell you when the best time to post is. But you do need to kind of build up that data before you can kind of trust what it's telling you, because you do need to have posts at varying times. Okay, we're going to go to the next section. So we're looking at boosting and promoting posts. Sorry. So what is a boost? Boosts and promotions are the same thing, just on different platforms. So on Instagram, a boost is called post promoting, but it's basically the same function. Is a more hands-on type of advertising. So it's done on your actual Facebook page and your Instagram page. It's not done in the Facebook ads platform. So rather than setting up a whole campaign in the ads platform, which would be required, you can take a post that you've already posted and that you feel is getting really good engagement and give it a boost of money to help it be shown to more people. So basically, it's like a fast, easy, affordable way to be kind of more hands-on with content you've already published. Generally, I would only recommend boosting posts that are doing well. So basically, say you put up a post and on Facebook, and instead of getting these usual like 10 likes, you got 200 likes. That shows that it's content that's really resonating with people. So that is where I would take, maybe $25 and boost it per day to get that content shown to even more people, because clearly it's really good content. So that's kind of the purpose of a boost, is basically to take organic content that is proved to have high engagement and show it to more people via promoting it or boosting it. The only cons to this are that there are limited advertising objectives compared to the ads platform, and on Instagram the targeting options are limited, but we'll look at that. So when you're going to boost a post, this is kind of what it looks like. You'll see there's a little boost post button on your page under your content, and I've done a little video just to kind of show you what it looks like when you're boosting a post. So really quickly, you can change goals. So the goal is basically the advertising objective. So Facebook generally prefers when you choose the automatic option, because then it decides what will get you the most whatever. But it also gives you the option of choosing. So you can target to get more website purchases, to get more messages, to get more engagement, to get more phone calls. And what that means is that when Facebook's targeting the ad out, they'll target it to people who are more likely to take that specific action based on their history of using Facebook and Instagram. So again, you can just choose automatic, and Facebook will decide what it kind of seeks out as the goal, or you can select it. In terms of selecting it, different goals will also force you to do different things. So for example, buttons. Personally, I prefer not to put a button on my post, on my boost. The reason for that is buttons then tend to make it look like, instead of it being organic content that just says sponsored, which kind of fits into your feed, it makes it look like an ad. So it makes it look more ad-y. And so personally, I prefer not to put a button. That being said, specific goals require a button. They force you to have a button. And once you've added a button to a boost, that post on your Facebook page will forever have a button. So instead of looking like organic content in your page feed, it will look like an ad. So that is why I personally tend to stick to the goals that don't require a button. So things like getting more engagement, you can put a button, but it's not necessary. However, when you want to send people, you'll see here, send people to your website, it forces you to put a button. So I have tended to shy away from that. If you don't mind and you still see yourself getting really good results, that's great. In terms of audiences, on Facebook boosts, you can choose from all your pre-made audiences. Again, we'll go through what pre-made audiences look like, but you can kind of select from all of them, which is really awesome. So you have good targeting options. And then duration. So this is where you select how much you want to spend and how long you want the boost to run for. I did a lot of A/B testing when boosts came out, and actually a couple years ago as well. And I personally found, so for a while they were really pushing like 10-day boosts. They want you to do long boosts. But to me, the purpose of a boost is that it's quick and easy, and you're getting a quick boost. If I wanted a 10-day campaign, I would create the campaign in the ad platform. So personally, and also when I did the A/B testing, so I did, for example, $100 for 10 days, so $10 a day, or I did $100 in one day. And when I compared those on the same post, I actually got more engagement with the one-day boost than the 10-day boost, even though the same amount of money was used. So I would recommend you test it out on your posts to see, but personally, I generally do it one day at a time. So I'll say I'll put $20 for one day, and if I'm happy with the results I get, then I'll add another $20 for another day, and so forth. So that's a really great thing about Boost, is that it's very hands-on, and based on the results, you can kind of like immediately add more money if you want. So you set your duration and the money, and then if you have a Facebook pixel, we're not going into that. Oh, actually I skipped. So Facebook Boost can run on both Instagram and Facebook and in the Messenger app. Generally, if my post content has a link in it, I only share it on Facebook because the content in Instagram, the link won't be clickable. But if it doesn't have a link in it, then I would recommend sharing it to Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, all of that. But you kind of have the choice. You just have to show it on Facebook because it's a Facebook boost. And then for the pixel, if you have a pixel, we're not going to go into that today because it's a little bit complex. But if you have a pixel, make sure that you've selected the correct one for tracking purposes. And also at the bottom, make sure that if you have multiple accounts, that you're using the right Visa card, so you're not charging money to the wrong account. So that is a Facebook boost. So an Instagram promotion. Again, this is almost identical in terms of what it does. So on your Instagram feed, you'll see the promote button under your Instagram post. And then these are the kind of steps it'll take you through. So you'll get to decide where you want to send people. So you want to send them to your Instagram profile, to your website, or to your DMs. You'll get to select your target audience. So here's where on Facebook you can select from all your pre-made audiences and even make new ones. Here you're really limited. So you can't use any of your saved audiences or custom audiences from Facebook. And when you're creating your audience for this promotion, you have very limited targeting options. So all you can select is location, interests, and age and gender. So you'll see that compared to what you can do in Facebook, that's more limited. Oftentimes, I'll just use the automatic option on Instagram. And I'll see really good results. And then again, you can choose your budget and duration. For me, I tend to still do the 1-day duration because I've seen such good results with it. So how much should you spend on a booster promotion? The great thing about this is that you can really test out very easily and for a small amount of money if it's worth it. So often I'll put anywhere from $5 to $25 as my initial 1-day spend. And then if I'm getting the number of engagements or link clicks that I want and for the right price, then I will add more money for another day. I've seen success that way, but again, I would recommend playing with it and testing it out. But it's a great option if you just want to put a little boost of money to get your organic content seen by more people. One note also, you can boost to multiple audiences on the same Facebook post. So I'm just going to go back. So here, when you boost post, once you've boosted a post, you'll see how it's done, and you can edit the boost to add more money or make it last longer. But then you can boost it again to a different audience. So that's also a really interesting way of seeing who's kind of reacting to your content in what way, and see which audience you can kind of get more from in terms of cost per click or cost per engagement, that kind of thing. So those are boosts. So just a reminder, these are done on the Facebook feed and the Instagram feed. They're not done in the Facebook advertising platform. They're just quick and easy. They're not a campaign. Let me see if you have any questions. Again, a reminder for anyone that's just popping in, the chat window is where you can ask questions, and Libby, our teaching assistant, will be answering some of them, and also she'll be sharing links to help you out. So how long does it take in general to have some learnings on the campaign? So that we'll look at later because that's based on running campaigns in the Facebook ad platform. That's not on a boost. A boost, basically, depending on how long you run it, you'll get your results once that amount of time has passed. So if it's a 1-day boost, once the 1 day is up and the money's spent, you'll see kind of what you got for it. If it's a 10-day boost, you'll kind of see at the end of that. So Facebook and Instagram advertising. Now we're really diving in. So, when you go into the Facebook ad platform, there is kind of a hierarchy as to how a campaign is set up. So there are kind of levels. So when you look at it, the campaign is kind of at the top. Within each campaign, you can have multiple ad sets. And then within each ad set, you can have multiple ads. So it's kind of like a trickle down. This is kind of what you control at each level. So basically at the campaign level, you're setting your advertising objective. So your advertising objective is very similar to the goal when you're setting up your Facebook boost. Basically, it's where you're choosing if you want the ad campaign to be trying to get you clicks, trying to get you likes, trying to get you new followers, trying to get people to sign up for a newsletter. That's where you set that at the campaign level. And then in that campaign, you can have multiple ad sets targeting different people and spending different amounts of money. So for example, you can have an ad set that targets, so it's going to be for the same objective. So say your objective is link Toronto, and then one ad set say Toronto teenagers, and then one ad set targeting 18-year-olds in Ottawa. So you can then at the ad set level is where you are going to break down different audiences that you want to reach with this advertising objective. And then at the ad level, so within each ad set, you can have multiple ads with different creative. So you might want the exact same ads, but in each ad set, or you might want to specify content differently to different audiences. So for example, if you're selling, socks to teenage girls, you're probably going to have different content than if you're selling t-shirts to teenage boys. Like, just the wording's going to be different, the images are going to be different. So that's where you're going to break down that content at the ad level. So just a reminder, campaign, within the campaign you have multiple ad sets, which is where you're targeting different people, and then within each ad you can have ad set, you can have multiple ads, which is where you can change content. So first we're going to look at advertising objectives. So Facebook has a lot of different advertising objectives that you can choose from. You're likely not going to use, they're kind of broken down into three different areas. So awareness ads, consideration ads, and conversion ads. You're likely not going to use many awareness ads unless you have a huge budget, because they're kind of more support type ads. So for example, companies like Coca-Cola will run them in conjunction with other ads just to get the most eyeballs as possible on their brand. So for example, if you want, like 5 million people to know that Coca-Cola has a new type of product, that's where you'd run a brand awareness campaign. If you're a small business, I think you'd be better off spending your money instead of just getting eyeballs on it, getting clicks or generating leads or things like that. If you have a smaller budget, awareness ads are probably not what you're going to be using. Conversion ads. Conversion ads are really useful, but they're also way more complex to set up, and they cost a lot more per action. So for example, if you're selling like a $200 product, it might cost you $30 per Facebook conversion to sell one of those, right? So it might be, you can sell one with a Facebook ad, but it'll cost you $30. So again, it's much more expensive, and they need to run for longer, and you have to have a much bigger budget to run them. So I would recommend starting with consideration ads, and once you're more comfortable with them, then start exploring conversion ads. So we're going to kind of look at these three types of consideration ads. They're the ones that you'll most likely be starting with because they're simple to set up and more affordable than conversion ads. So they're where you're going to kind of want to do your practice and get comfortable with Facebook advertising. And they do most of what you need people to do in general. So to get people to your events, so at this point those would be online events or in-person events, so event response ads. Lead generation, so those can allow you to get people to sign up for your newsletter or just subscribe for a service. And then traffic, so that gets people to your website to shop about your service. So just going to quickly look at kind of like what those ads look like on the service level. This is a sample event response ad. The great thing about event response ads is that if you're using Eventbrite, so again, this is for webinars or for online events as well, you can link your Eventbrite event to your Facebook page and actually sell tickets or registrations directly through the Facebook ad. So generally, the fewer steps people have to take to do something, the more likely they are to take the action. So having them register or buy a ticket within the ad itself makes it more likely that they'll take the action because they're not having to click it and then open Eventbrite and then look at the Eventbrite ad and then purchase. The less steps there are, the better. Another good thing about event response ads is that when you're building your ad campaign, you can actually target people who have been to your previous events, or even people who have said they're interested in your event but haven't purchased tickets yet. So event response ads are a really useful ad type. This is a sample lead generation ad. So these ads are great for getting people to subscribe to something or to sign up for something. So for example, if you're a gym, you could use these to get people to sign up for a discount first month. So, yoga studios, all that kind of stuff. That would be a great option. Food delivery services could use this to get people to sign up for a free trial week. So for example, HelloFresh or something, this would be a great option for them, for people to sign up for a quick 1-week trial. At my work, because we sell houses, so it's pretty hard to sell those online, we use them to grow our newsletter lists. if you're growing your newsletter list as a business, you could also offer a discount code for people to sign up. So you could say, register, say your Zara, register for the Zara newsletter and receive a 10% off code. So there's a lot of different options for using a lead generation ad type. And then traffic ads. So at my work, I work on a current project called Cooper Farm at the moment. We sell high-end houses. So they're mostly what I use, basically just to get people onto our website and learning more about us. So all I'm trying to do is get people onto our website. There's a broader range of ad formats you can use for traffic ads. What you're seeing here is a carousel. I'll later, but the one you kind of swipe through. You can use them to send people to a product page, to an about page, to a gallery page, a landing page you specifically designed for a campaign. The options are kind of endless. If you're an online store trying to get people to buy things and you're not starting with conversion ads because of your budget, I would recommend starting with traffic ads and sending people to specific product pages on your website. So overall, this is a really cost-effective way of getting home to your site. That is the purpose of a traffic ad. So that's what you're choosing at the campaign level. You're choosing what the purpose of your ad campaign is, what actions you want to take. Now, at the ad set level, this is where you're looking at targeting, budget, and placement of your ads. So placement is where you can run Facebook ads. So Facebook allows you to select where you want things to appear. So for example, on Facebook, they can appear in the Facebook feed, right column, in-stream videos, marketplace stories, all of that. On Instagram, the ads can show up in feed and in stories. In Messenger, they can show up in the inbox, sponsored messages, Messenger stories. And then there's the audience network, which we'll look at really quickly. But one thing to note is that if you get really picky about your placements, it's very likely that the cost of your ads will go up. Facebook prefers that you let it choose where to place the ads because the advertising algorithm knows where you'll get the most bang for your buck based on so much data. So if you do want to be particular, that's fine, but just be aware it might result in your ads costing a little bit more per action. The audience network. So the audience network is basically a network of publisher-owned apps and sites where you can show your ads. Think about when you're scrolling through your feed and you come across a BuzzFeed article. When you open that BuzzFeed article, it's not actually opening your browser. It's not opening Safari or Firefox. It's actually opening the article within Facebook. You're staying in the Facebook app. What this allows, the benefit of this to the publisher is that the content loads a lot faster, and it's not taking people outside of the Facebook app. The benefit to Facebook is that by allowing this, Facebook can sell ad spaces in those publisher-owned apps. So basically, Facebook can sell BuzzFeed in BuzzFeed's article that loads in Facebook. So that's kind of what the audience network is. Super quick, we're going to be giving away a book. We're basically, Libby in the chat window will be announcing the winners' names right now. Basically, this is a book written by Avery Swartz, who is the founder of Camp Tech, and it's a great resource. It's widely available wherever books are sold, so bookstores, online, and also in a lot of libraries. So do check the chat window to see if you were the winner of this book, this free giveaway. So we're still at the ad set option. We just looked at placement. Now we're going to look at audience creation options. So one of the really great things about Facebook is how in detail it lets you target people and how in detail your audiences can be. So there's basically three overarching types of audiences. There are saved audiences. So saved audiences are basically just audiences you create and you save all the things you've selected for them so that you can easily use them later for ads, for boosts, that kind of thing. So basically, you're just choosing what you're targeting on and then saving it for use later. So you get to target on demographics, so age, gender, relationship status, education, workplace, job titles, things like that. You can target based on location, so you can reach people in areas where you want to do business. If you're a bricks and mortar store, you can actually create a radius around your store to help create more walk-ins. And you can get as granular as postal codes and as macro as entire countries. And then you can also target based on interests. So you can basically target people based on what they're into, like hobbies, favorite entertainment brands, things like that. So that's a saved audience. Again, all you're doing with these is you're targeting based on demographic and location and interest, and then saving that audience to be able to use for future ads and for boosts. Custom audiences is where you get a little bit more complicated. So a custom audience is basically an ad targeting option that lets you find your existing audiences among people who are on Facebook. So some examples of custom audiences to give you an idea of what this looks like. So a website custom audience would be an audience made up of people who visit your website or who visit certain pages on your website. So you could create an audience of those people. Mobile app custom audiences. Again, people who have downloaded your app or people who have taken certain actions in it. You can also upload external customer lists to create a custom audience. So for example, you could download the list of everyone who signed up for your newsletter in MailChimp and upload that to create a custom audience of all those people. And then you can also create engagement custom audiences. So Facebook lets you choose to create audiences based on people who have engaged with your Facebook or Instagram account in specific ways. So custom audiences are really amazing. They're often used for remarketing. They're just a little bit more complicated to set up, but we'll kind of do a walkthrough of what that looks like at the end of a little bit later in the webinar. Now, one thing you can also do with custom audiences is, well, you have to use a custom audience to create a lookalike audience. So lookalike audiences are a step more complicated than custom audiences. But basically the purpose of a lookalike audience is to reach new people who are likely to be interested in your business because they're similar to your existing customers. So basically you're taking a custom audience and you're basing a new audience on traits that are similar to try and expand your audience. Basically, Facebook identifies the common qualities of the people in your source audience, so in your source custom audience, so demographic information, interests, and then they build a new lookalike audience of people who look like those people. So the source audience is always a custom audience. To build a lookalike audience, you have to have built a custom audience. When you're building your lookalike audience, you can only build it geographically at the country level. So the reason they do that is that Facebook needs enough people to pull people from to create that lookalike audience. They need large numbers. That being said, once you've created a lookalike audience, I know this is sounding really complicated, but once you've created a lookalike audience, when you go to create an ad with it, at that point you can then kind of funnel down to a more specific area. It's just that in creating the lookalike audience, you can only choose to create it at the country level. Your source audience must contain at least 100 people from a single country, and Facebook recommends that the source audience size, so the custom audience you're using to create the lookalike audience, have between 1,000 and 50,000 people in it. Basically, smaller audiences will, you have to think about quality too. So, for example, if your source audience is made up of your best customers rather than every single customer you have, then the quality of the lookalike audience will more likely match your best customers. But at the same time, the purpose of a lookalike audience is to try and grow your audiences, so you kind of have to balance quality and quantity when you're building a lookalike audience. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick audience walkthrough with you guys so you get a sense of what it looks like to build these audiences. So basically, when you're in the Facebook Ads Manager, there you can go to a audience section. So basically, when you open this little business tools section, this is where you can kind of choose to go to your audiences. You can also create audiences when you're creating ads themselves, but this is basically where every single audience you've ever created is stored. So when you create a saved audience, you're going to want to name your audience so you know what it is very easily. So it could be something like Toronto men 20 to 45 plus interests or something like that. So this is where you're going to be able to target by location. So you can target people living in or recently in. You can target just people living in, just people recently in, or you could target just people traveling in this location. So, for example, if you're a tourism-based business, you might want to just target people who are traveling in your region as opposed to people who live there. You could target all of Canada, or you could target, for example, just Toronto. And here you could choose how far. You could do just the city of Toronto, or you could do the city of Toronto plus places up to 25 miles outside of it, 41 miles outside of it. You can play with that. You could also target by postal code, the first 3 digits of the postal code. So you could put in J9A and target just that specific postal code. You could also say you want to target Toronto, 50 kilometers outside of Toronto, but you don't want to target Hamilton. You could exclude Hamilton, Ontario, right? So it would target Toronto, but you just don't want people in the city of Hamilton to get the ads. You could exclude them. For age ranges, here, this is where you're going to pick your age. One downside to Facebook ads in this area I find is that you can't target multiple ranges, so you couldn't target people who are 25 to 35 and 45 to 55 in the same ad. You'd have to make, in the same ad set, you'd have to make 2 ad sets where the audiences are identical but the ages are different if you want to specifically target 2 different ranges. Gender, men, women, all. Languages, unless you're advertising in an area where for example, if you're sending your ads to Toronto, but you specifically want to target Spanish speakers, that's when you put in a language. If you're targeting in the language of majority in the area, you don't need to specify this. So really, it's just if you're specifying, if you're going to be sending out ads in or sending out ads to people who speak a language that is not the language of the majority, that's when you want to put this into target based on their language preferences. And then detailed targeting. So this is interest-based targeting and things like that. Again, you can exclude or include based on it. So, for example, under demographics, you could target people based on their education level. So you could say, if you are someone, say you're a university selling basically classes to people, you could specifically target people who have a master's degree. You would target your PhD program to them, for example, right? So that would be where that kind of thing comes into play. If you are doing webinars on advertising, you might want to target people who have gone to college in advertising, or people who are interested in that. Financial income, I believe this is only available in the US, yes. You can't target on income in Canada, but life events is a really good one. So anniversaries, birthdays, new jobs, new relationships. So for example, if you're a wedding photographer, you're probably going to want to target people who have been newly engaged in the last 3 and 6 months and 1 year, because they're most likely to need a wedding photographer. If you are someone who sells, baby products, you're probably going to want to target people who are new parents. That's where this gets really, really interesting in terms of detailed targeting. You can also target brands, large brands who have large pages. So, is it going to show me? Is it going to load? Yeah, so for example, if you are Adidas, you might want to target people who are interested in Nike because they're your competitor. So if they've shown interest or liked posts or follow Adidas, Nike, you might want to target them because they might be interested in buying your product. So if you have competitors that are large names, you can also target basically people who have shown interest in them. And then you just save audience, and so then you'll have that saved audience to be able to use in the future. Custom audiences. So this is how you build a custom audience. So for example, when we were talking about a customer list, this is where you could upload, you could import a list from MailChimp, or you could import like an Excel sheet of customers that you want to include. Sorry, it makes me reopen it every time. Your source's website. You could, so you have to have a pixel to do this. Again, we won't cover that here, but you can look up what a Henry-Ford pixel is. You could target basically everyone who has visited, the homepage of your website in the last 30 days or in the last 60 days. Or you could just exclude people who have visited that page. So that's how you create a website custom audience. You could use Facebook or Instagram sources. So you could say, I want to target people who have engaged with any post or ad on my Instagram. Or I want to target people who have saved any post or ad. So that's where you can create custom audiences based on how people have engaged with your Instagram and Facebook pages. So custom audiences are a really good tool because often those audiences are higher quality audiences than saved audiences because they've already engaged with your brand in some way. Now, lookalike audiences. So you have to select a source for your lookalike audience. So that's where sorry, give me a second. So that's where you have to choose from your custom audiences that have already been created. So here, I'm going to say as my source audience, I want to use my Facebook engagement audience. So that is my custom audience, that is my source. Then you can decide how many lookalike audiences you want to make. You want to make 1, 2, I generally just do 1 for me personally. What this percentage means is as this goes up, the size of your audience will increase, but the quality of them will decrease. So basically, a 1% lookalike audience consists of the people most similar to your lookalike source. So that might be 500,000 people, but they're most similar to your source audience. But say you do a lookalike audience made up of the top 6%, now you might have 2 million people, but they're not going to be as similar to your source audience because Facebook had to go get more people. So again, this is where you're just going to want to test it. For me personally, because we are looking for very specific audiences we can afford our houses, I tend to do a 1% lookalike audience that's most similar to my source audience. And since I made this presentation, Facebook has switched things again. Now you no longer choose your location here. So it used to be that when you did this, you had to choose like Canada or the US as your your country audience to create the ad. You no longer do that here. You just set your location in your ad set, which is handy, I must say, because you already had to do that anyways. But that is an example of how quickly Facebook changes. It makes changes like this all the time. You just kind of have to get used to it as you're creating the ads. So that was how you create audiences in Facebook. Do we have any questions? If you send them in the chat window, Libby can send them my way. If not, we can move on to the next piece. Okay, we did have one question from earlier. Okay, is there a way to convert people who follow your Facebook business page into liking your Facebook business page? So in ad types, you can target for page likes. So what you could do is you could create a custom audience made up of all the people who follow your page, and then you could target them in a campaign for page likes to get page likes. I don't know if that would be the best use of your money. I think you'd probably be better off trying to get people to purchase things or go to your website, but if you're really set on getting more page likes, that's how you would do that. What are your suggestions for ad types for growing numbers of Instagram followers? So that's not really the page likes is an option for Facebook, not for Instagram. In terms of getting more Instagram followers, what I would probably do is run contests. I would run contests that tell people that they have to, follow you on Instagram and tag a friend and whatever. That is probably the easiest way to gain Instagram followers for free because it's not really an option in the Facebook ads platform. So that's what I would recommend. Run a contest. Okay, so we looked at the campaign level, which is where you choose your advertising objective. We looked at the ad set level, which is where you choose where your ads are shown and who you're targeting. And now we're going to look at the ad level, which is where you set your creative and your messaging and your ad format. So basically, there are there are several ad formats you can choose from when you're creating an ad. So there's carousel, single image, single video, slideshow, collection, and there's also full screen experiences, which is kind of a bonus, which I'll talk to you about. But so single image and single video ads are pretty straightforward. It's basically you're creating ads with a static image or with a video, and that's what it looks like. The rest of them are a little bit more interesting. The carousel ads are one of my favorites. I use them a lot. Basically what they do is they allow you to tell a more complex story or highlight a variety of products within a single ad. So you can have a lot of fun with them and be creative with how you show them. And they also tend to receive more engagement than just like a single photo because of that kind of how they allow people to swipe through. They're interactive. So again, they're roomier, you have more space to tell your story, they're interactive, so people can swipe through, and they're flexible. So they're made up of cards. You can have a minimum, I think the minimum is 3 cards, but you can have up to 10 cards. So I just gave some examples of ones that I had come across that I thought were clever. So this is an example of a carousel ad that has just a really short, simple little video as its first card, but that really kind of catches the eye, and then you swipe through to kind of see more details on the sofa that was in the video. So that was a clever way of kind of catching the attention. Another one is that you can actually take kind of panoramic photos or product photos and cut them up and then use them in different cards so that when someone's swiping through, they're kind of seeing, in this one, for example, they're seeing different benefits of the particular product, which I thought was a creative way of using it. In terms of number of cards, you can add up to 10 of them, but I've generally found that once you start having more than 5 or 6, engagement rates start to drop off. So test it out, but for me, I've always found that I generally max it out at 5 or 6 cards. A slideshow ad. So basically, slideshow ads serve a couple purposes. If you don't have the money or budget to create professional video, slideshow ads are basically, they give you the benefits of kind of like the moving pictures, but you're literally just creating a slideshow out of multiple photos, and you can put on text and sound, like Facebook kind of has all those tools for you. So it's a way of creating video without having video. Another thing is that if you're targeting countries with slower internet, slideshows are a great option because they're lightweight and they load really fast compared to an actual video. So if you were to be targeting like a rural area, slideshow might actually be a better option for you than video. So this is an example of a slideshow I created way back in the day when we didn't have a video budget, where it was just, again, it kind of lets you tell, like a carousel ad, it lets you tell a more in-depth story by showing more aspects of whatever product or service you're selling. And then a collection ad. So when we go back to the different types of ads, this is a collection ad. So this is the one ad format of these top 5 that cannot exist without a full screen experience. So we're going to look at collection ads, and then we're going to look at full screen experiences. Full screen experiences can be added to any of these ad types, but the collection ad type is the only one that has to have a full screen experience. So basically, a collection ad lets people discover, browse, and purchase products in a very visual way. So the idea is that it allows potential customers to get into buying mode because it's kind of like easy to use and fun, and it looks pretty. So again, it has to exist with a full screen experience. So what is a full screen experience? Basically, a full screen experience is when you click on the ad, instead of going to someone's website, you're basically opening up like an in-app landing page. So again, kind of like the idea of like the BuzzFeed ads that stay in the Facebook app. This loads a lot faster than a normal website. It's a website quality landing page without leaving the Facebook app. And there's a lot of different things you can do with it in terms of including images and videos and slideshows and carousels within the instant experience ad. And so an instant experience it's only available on mobile. It used to be known as Canvas ad, now it's called Instant Experience. But it basically takes over the whole screen when someone clicks on it. So it's kind of like an immersive full screen experience. So in it you can look at videos and photos, you can swipe through carousels, you can tilt to pan photos, explore lifestyle images with tagged products, that kind of thing. So this is an example of a collection ad that opens up into an instant experience. So Facebook actually provides a bunch of different templates for these, but you can also use their building blocks, or you can create your own. So for example, this is, I'm going to slide back in a minute. This is the collection ad, what you're looking at, and as soon as they clicked and it opened up, that was when they were in the instant experience. So as you're looking at it, you're in the feed, this is a collection ad. Now the person is clicking and it's going to open into the instant experience. Now it's in the instant experience where you can slide around and look at different products, and there's a video. So this is a very product-focused ones, but you can also do lifestyle-focused ones, which I'll show you an example of. So here's an example of someone who's using instant experience but attached to like a lead ad. So basically, they're opening up, when the person clicks on the ad, it's opening up an instant experience form so that someone can sign up for a product. And the benefit of this is that all their information is already filled out by Facebook, so they're more likely to hit submit and actually sign up because it's already pre-filled. So that's just an example of an instant experience that has been used before. And one thing to note is I will actually show you where this is all located in Facebook just at the end. So add content. Basically, this is how long you have to catch someone's attention. When they're scrolling on their computer, you have about 2.5 seconds. On a cell phone, you have about 1.7 seconds. With younger people, so like teenagers, they scroll even faster, so you have less time than that. So you really want to make sure your content for your ads is attention-grabbing and concise. So visuals are key. You want high-quality imagery, attention-grabbing imagery. Less is more. Do try and keep when you're creating an ad, there's lots of places to put text. Try to keep text as much as possible out of the image in the ad itself. Let the image speak for itself. That being said, Facebook actually caps how much text you can have in an image. So if you have more than 20% of your image is taken up by text, Facebook actually won't even let you publish the ad. So as much as possible, try to keep text in your graphics or in your images to a minimum. When it comes to your content, try and be short and sweet, be snappy, make sure you have a value proposition. So, like, what is the purpose of your ad and why should people care? Make sure you're clearly stating, like, what step someone should take, like what they should be doing or why they should be interested. And then make sure you double check your spelling. Even bad writers can notice bad grammar. So if you know that you tend to make mistakes, you don't want to be spending money on an ad that has a glaring error. So do just have someone look over your ad content. At this point in the ad as well, where you're setting up the format, you can actually customize your assets for different placements. So this is something Facebook never used to give you the option for, but now they do, and it's kind of amazing. So basically, it allows you to use different assets for different placements. So you could upload a product image or video to Facebook and a brand image or video to Instagram. You can crop your photos to be used in different places. So for example, you could have this one photo be square for placements like on Instagram, but then have it be full landscape for Facebook. So Facebook automatically applies the right aspect ratio to your image for each placement, but sometimes that cuts things off, so it allows you to kind of customize the crop. And then it also allows you to like edit your videos, so you can upload a video and say like different placements allow for different length of videos. So for example, like Facebook Stories only allows for a 15-second video, but news feeds on Facebook allow for longer. So you could actually like edit down your video so a shorter version of it is used in Facebook Stories and the longer version is used in your news feed. You can also add captions and thumbnails, things like that. And then it also allows you to use different text or headlines depending on placement. So, for example, you could shorten the copy for Instagram stories, but then have slightly longer content for Messenger inbox. So, just a really cool way to customize assets so that text doesn't get cut off and images don't get cropped in the wrong way. So basically, these are examples of how the same ad looks in different placements. So, for example, this is the Facebook newsfeed placement. In this placement, your primary text is at the top. It shows a URL, it shows a headline, which is a piece of text you don't have to include in your ad if you don't want to. It shows a description, again, this is optional, but in this placement it shows these things, and then your button, your call to action. This same ad on Instagram only shows your primary text and your call to action. So none of this will show in your Instagram feed. So if this held key content that really required this content to make sense, it wouldn't show up in Instagram. So make sure that your primary text alone makes sense by itself. And then again, in instant article, you have again a different placement. So the headline does show up, so does the primary text, but you don't have as much room as you did on Instagram and Facebook. It actually cuts off the text. So you'll notice that in this ad, this existed before asset customization was an option, so my content ran over. So that's where asset customization can be like a really good tool to make sure that your ads look good in all placements. So what I'm going to do before we take kind of the final questions is I'm actually going to do a quick run through with you of what each of these kind of main ad types look like in Ads Manager. So we'll look at a single image ad first. Okay, so this is where you see that kind of funnel effect. So this is my campaign. So this is my traffic campaign, basically. It's for landing page load. So people load my landing page, go to my website. So this is my traffic campaign. This ad is within an ad set that targets Toronto. And then this is the specific ad within that ad set. So make sure that your Facebook and Instagram accounts that are linked to this are the correct ones if you have multiple accounts. Here you'll see this is where I chose single image as my image type. I didn't add an instant experience to this, so when people click on it, they'll just go to the website. And then here you'll see that I've customized my assets to show up differently in different places. So you'll see here that this has been cropped down to a square. So all these placements, Facebook newsfeed, marketplace, Instagram feed, they'll use a square one. This one is I left it in its original shape because that's what Facebook uses for instant articles, right column, and search results. And then for stories, so in stories, if you use a regular horizontal photo, it'll just kind of like awkwardly place text underneath it and like make a background that kind of matches the colors. It's not the most beautiful thing. So what I did is I actually made a graphic. So instead, I basically put the information that I wanted in the actual graphic itself so that it would look better in Instagram stories. So that's an option as well. You can have a totally different graphic in this placement because you think it'll look better than, just the square photo with kind of like background colors on either side. So, and again, here you see in this particular placement, my content went over and it was too long. So you have the see more button. So I should have made it shorter and snappier. So here is where you can select a placement. You can choose which placements you want to edit, and you can edit them all individually if you wanted to. I put in my primary text. You have the option of putting in multiple text options. So what that means is you could have 4 or 5 different primary text options, and Facebook would show them based on what it thinks will work best for the person it's showing it to. Your headline, again, you don't have to put a headline. It'll show in some placements, and again, you can have multiple headline options. One thing to note when you're putting in multiple, make sure they work with each other no matter what combination they're in. Otherwise, it could start to look a little bit stupid. So if here I'm saying only 15 from downtown Ottawa, but then I have a headline that says also 15 minutes from downtown Ottawa, it's a little bit repetitive. So just take that into account when you're writing these. Description, again, this is optional. It won't show in all placements. Destination, because this is a traffic ad or landing page loads ad, I'm sending people to my website, but you could send people, this is where you would send them to a Facebook event. So if you're trying to target people for events, you could do that here. Or you could send them to call you. URL, this is where you put the URL for where the button will go to. I've built a URL parameter. We're not going to go over that, it's kind of complicated, but if you're familiar with Google, you might have a Google Analytics account. If you have a Google Analytics account, by creating this URL parameter, I'm able to track when people who have clicked on this ad, how that specific group of people Google acts on my website. So I can see how long they spend on my website, kind of how many pages they go to, at what point they drop off, that kind of thing. So if you do use Google Analytics, and CampTech does actually offer several webinars on Google Analytics, then this would be a useful place to kind of put in the tracking metrics for Google Analytics. Otherwise, just put your regular URL. Display link, here I want just a simple link shown. I don't want this massive link shown, so that's why I put in my display link is very simple, but it will actually go to this. And then call to action. This is where you get to choose your buttons. You don't get to write custom buttons. You have to pick from Facebook's options. It used to be when I first started out, they only had like 4 button options. It was brutal. Now at least they have many more. And then languages. So you can publish your ad in multiple languages. Basically what it will do is you can switch pictures in that language, and then you'll write these in the other language. One thing to note, if you're doing multiple text options, you can't choose the additional language option. So just something to keep in mind. And then tracking, if you do have a pixel, make sure you're tracking the correct pixel, and then publish. That is a single image ad. That is how you would set that up. Carousel ad. Just close these. So a carousel ad will look really similar. We'll let it load. So again, make sure your Facebook and Instagram account are correct. You'll choose carousel instead of single image or video. You can add an instant experience if you want. I have not. So in this particular one, I chose to take a panoramic photo and cut it into three cards. So each of the cards is part of the main photo. So when people are scrolling through it, it'll look like one large photo. One thing to note is that, actually I'll show you this after. Each of the cards can have its own headline and its own description. In certain placements, so this is, let's see, in certain placements you'll see the description. If your headline's longer, you sometimes won't see it. So in this case, I just put a headline. And then you can actually have a separate URL for each card if you want. One thing to note if you're going to have separate URLs is that I basically did a bunch of A/B testing where I did separate URLs and tracked them in Google Analytics. And basically, generally, the first card and the last card are the ones that are clicked on the most. So if you're going to have different URLs, put your most important URLs, the ones you really want people to click on, as the first card and the last card. And then edit placement. So again, you could edit how it shows up in different places. For carousels, it's not as important to edit because everything's square. So it'll only show in places where square images would be anyways. You might want to edit for content, but that would be kind of the only placement editing you would be doing. Here, because I chose to do a panoramic style one, I unchecked this box. But if you check this box off, which I would recommend doing if you're just showing random photos, basically what Facebook will do is based on what carousel cards people click on, it'll show the best ones first, so that the most popular ones that get the most engagement are shown first in your ad. You can also add a card at the end with your page profile picture, and if you're like a bricks and mortar store, you can add a map card at the end that shows your nearest store. Then you put in your primary text, which will go at the top, and the see more URL doesn't show up in many places, but you should put it in anyways because it will show up in certain placements. And again, you have to choose your call to action, your button. Tracking, if you have a pixel, make sure it's on. That is what a carousel ad creation looks like. You can also, when you're creating these different cards, you can actually kind of like pull them and rearrange them in different orders if you want. Again, if you're just going to automatically show the best card, it doesn't matter, but if you're doing something like this, you might want to rearrange them. And then a video ad looks like this. Okay, so this doesn't open to a mobile an instant experience. So what I've done is I've chosen to do a video. I've uploaded my video. You can edit within Facebook. You can edit the video yourself, so you can change the crop on it. You can trim it to make it shorter. You can change what the thumbnail is, so what the first image people see before the video starts is. You can also add captions. So when I add captions, Facebook can automatically generate them for you, which was for me the easiest way to do it. But what I did is I got Facebook to generate it, and then I went through all the generated captions and made sure they were correct, because generally Facebook will make some errors and will have some like hilarious mistakes. So if you are going to get Facebook to generate the captions for you instead of you writing them yourselves, make sure you do go through them and correct the mistakes. And then again, here you can overlay logos or do text overlays. So there's a lot of really awesome video editing options within Facebook itself. You're going to add your primary text, which here is seen at the top. You don't have to add a website URL, so basically people could just see the video and that's it. They don't have the option to click anywhere, but you can add a website URL. You can add a headline and description if you want, but again, like for example, in this placement, you don't see my description, but you might see it in other placements. And then you add your website URL here. Languages, again, you can show the ad in multiple languages so people see it. So for example, if you're advertising, I live right outside of Ottawa, there's a lot of French speakers and English speakers, so you might want to advertise in both languages, so depending on what people's Facebook settings are at, they see it in either French or English. And then just make sure your pixel is correct. So that is a video ad. Now we're going to do an instant experience walkthrough. So this is basically what an ad looks like when it has an instant experience added to it. So it's a single image ad, and I've just added an instant experience or a full screen mobile experience. So what that means is when you're looking at this, instead of there being a button like there normally is, there's just this little arrow. When someone clicks on that arrow, it'll open the full screen experience. So once you do that, you're going to need to choose a full screen experience to add on. So here, you'll be able to create it and choose from a list of the ones you've already created. And then everything else is the same. Like everything else is like adding your photos, editing for placements, putting in headlines, text, and all that. It's exactly the same as before. The only difference is that you're going to choose a button. You're going to choose add an instant experience. And in terms of where you can find all your instant experiences, it's really confusing. They can't be found in your ad platform. They have to be found on your page. So if you go to your Facebook page, I don't know why Facebook does this, it's very confusing, but you go to your Facebook page and you go down to Publishing Tools. When you're in Publishing Tools, let it load. Scroll all the way down to the bottom and you go to Instant Experience. It used to be called Canvas. So when you open that, these are all the instant experiences I've created. So for example, this is an example of one that I used. I used the Instant Experience Builder to build it. So I put in a header, I put in a photo, I put in text. Here I put in a kind of like a carousel that people can swipe through. I put in images, I put in callouts. Like those are all things when you create a new ad, you can add the components yourselves. It lets you pick it and upload things. You can also, if you want, it used to have, if you're creating it in your Facebook ad, so when you click that you want to check off add an instant experience, it also gives you the option to create one from there. It will be stored in here, but you can create it as you're creating your ad. It also, in that option, gives you some, what would you call them, like pre-made templates that you can pop your own pictures and content into. They're a little bit limiting though, so that's why personally I've always like kind of created with my own components. Another thing you can do, which I've done if you use a graphic designer, is I've uploaded components as simple photos. So basically what I've done is I've had the graphic designer create blocks. So all I've done is, you can see my components are photo, photo, photo. I've created blocks to make it that each one only has one single clickable portion of it. So the one thing with photos is that if you want a photo to be clickable, you can only put a single link. So what I did is I made sure we cut it. We cut each block so that each block can go somewhere different. So I only included one like clickable button looking thing for each block so that I can change the destination based on what the block is. So here, for example, I can explore the house. Here I can look at the floor plans. So these are all just photos that have been stacked, that I've broken up into different photos so that I can make different parts of it clickable to different places. So if you work with a graphic designer, this is a cool way of making something that's really kind of like designed out. If you don't work with a graphic designer, that's totally fine. A lot of my really successful canvas ads have just been the kind that I've built in the instant experience builder with the different components it offers. It's just obviously more limited in terms of the types of fonts you can use and stuff. But again, still a great option. So weirdly enough, your instant experiences will be found on your page under the publishing tools. I'll also really quickly show you where the Creator Studio is. So again, if you're on your page and you go to the Creator Studio, this is where you can schedule posts to your Facebook and your Instagram. So that's where, if you go to your content library, these are all my posts that are published. These are scheduled. This is where you can schedule for free. It just won't give you that same data as tools like Iconosquare. So last few tips. When you're writing your content, try to max out your primary text at 125 characters so it doesn't get cut off. So in one of my ads, you saw that it said it went ... see more. That's because I went over the 125 characters. If you use Google Analytics, use Facebook's URL parameter builder to better track users once they click on the ad. And then test. With Facebook ads, never stop testing and tweaking and trying out different things. Try out different images and different content and see what resonates more with your audiences. That's how you'll get the best bang for your buck with Facebook ads. So I'm going to take some final questions. So do you just use video taken from your phone and upload it to Facebook? I find mine are too long, even if just 1 minute. Okay, so again, you're going to want, for Facebook ads, you're going to want high quality video. So if you're taking like very high quality, well edited video on your phone, that's totally fine. You can upload it. If yours are too long, that's where you can use Facebook's video editor to actually trim them, add your logo, things like that. You can actually edit them down so that they're shorter and so that they're shorter in different placements. Is it advisable to put hashtags on a Facebook ad? No, I would not put hashtags on a Facebook ad unless it's a Facebook ad advertising your campaign and your campaign has a really recognizable hashtag. So something like hashtag Bell Let's Talk. The purpose of a hashtag is to make content searchable. On Facebook in general, people don't really use hashtags in that way to search things. So I recommend just using hashtags on Facebook, using a single hashtag when it's a campaign hashtag that you want people to see and use across various platforms. And then in ads, people aren't going to be searching for things in ads, so no, I would not put hashtags in a Facebook ad. What budget should I allocate on a test campaign running for 2 weeks for brand awareness? Honestly, budget totally depends on the budget you have, and you'll also want to play with it. So for example, you could start at $5 a day, for example, for 2 weeks and see how that does. I find that there's often a sweet spot. So some people think that if you just plunk a ton of money into ads, you'll double and triple as you double and triple your budget. That's not really how it works. When you double your budget on Facebook, you don't necessarily double your results. So you kind of want to find the sweet spot. So I would start at a lower amount and then try and go up and wait until you find that your results no longer increase by the amount you've increased your budget, and then stop it at that. And if you still have more budget, then just run more ads, more different ads. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to just be dumping lots of money into a single ad because it's easier for you if you could be getting more, say, awareness or engagement by running 5 different ads for $5 each versus one ad for $25, if there is a difference. So I would just test that. See, I had one other ones. What is Messenger Inbox and why would I advertise there? Basically, Facebook now shows ads when people are in their Messenger app on their phones, so like Facebook Messenger. Now, amongst your messages, there are ads that show up, so that is an ad placement that Facebook offers. I don't particularly think it's a very strong ad placement. I've never looked at an ad in my Messenger app, so if that's kind of a placement you're not interested in and you want to uncheck it, feel free to do so. Just be aware that because Facebook likes to be the one to decide where things go, it may increase the cost of your ads a little bit, but that might be worth it for you to show it in kind of more high-profile areas. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Just a note that the reference guide for this webinar is available at camtech.ca/fbads. Libby, our teaching assistant, has also shared the link in the chat window. And if you're interested in other webinars, there are a bunch of different ones being offered right now for various digital marketing topics. So do go to the opiaa.com website and you'll be able to see a list of those upcoming webinars. So thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Karena dia benda satu box. Iya. Nantinya dicelup-celupin aja.
Enggak, masih lama. Setengah tanggal 19 UKF-nya. Sekarang 70.
Kasih sih 1, 2, 3. Hah? Ini 1 aja. Lele kan? Ini 1. Satu lebih gede.